we will do everything to prevent this from ever happening again. Now, can they do that? I don't know. I was surprised it happened in the first place.
Yeah. It's we're not going to say it will never happen again. We're just saying there's a low likelihood.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax, HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to episode 473 of the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSP, and joining me all the way back from the other side of the United States.
I know, right?
Donna Grindle of Carden. So tell everybody where you've been, Donna. I'm kind of jelly.
We, my siblings and I, we went on a family trip with my dad, but like not the next generation, but us. There were 6 of us to a cruise to Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
So we was Seattle to Juneau, Sitka, Ketchikan. Had to make a stop in Canada because of all the law things, and Victoria, but we didn't get off ship. My sister did. And then back to Seattle. So had a great time with my dad, and it was a fun time for everybody. So and nobody killed each other. That was the
that's always a positive, right?
That was an iffy thing, but it's a big boat. We could get away from one another when we needed to. So.
Yeah. Anytime you have trips with families, that can be fun and or not.
Yeah. So overall, other than travel trauma, it was great, and we were on the Holland America line, and they're great folks, and we were known as, it's the family.
It's the family.
Yeah,
It's
so
the
you
family.
Never knew. No, we're the family.
All right, so today we're going to be talking about the title is "Yes, You Are a Victim."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
so,
we pretty much all are.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit, I guess last week or 2 weeks ago now. But the big data breach, the national public data breach.
Yeah,
it's getting worse. Or I think people are finding out what it all entails. Even my own kids, who they don't keep up with any of this stuff, they're even having conversations about it. Oh, great! All of our data is breached. Now what are we going to do? I'm like,
yeah.
So it's getting a lot of press. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that and give you some tips and pointers about what you should do next. But before we do that, I want to say thanks to those of you who listen, who share this out. Do your part to help the world find out about it. Appreciate it. Yeah. All right. So we're going to dive right on into it, though. So we talked about this data breach back in episode 471, which was just a week or so ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like I said, it's not cooled down any, and probably won't for a good while, because it's just massive data breach. Was it 2 point something billion? Pretty much everybody, I think they said.
Yeah. Between this and the Change Healthcare one, everybody.
Yep. So one of the questions that I've actually been getting is, how do we know if we got sucked up in this breach? And so sometimes we're able to point people in the right direction to say, hey, here's a database and you can go search and see if you were there. I think for me, it's like, I just assume I'm there anyway. But it is sometimes shocking when you search the database and you see your name. Worse yet, you see your social security number, or your date of birth and all these other things. So anyway, having said that, the good folks over at pentester.com have actually put together a search tool that you can use, and we'll link to it in the show notes. But you can go there and you can put in your first name, last name, state that you're in, or you want to search rather, and also your year you were born. and it'll bring up all the people that were listed there. For me, the interesting thing was they didn't have my first name right. They have my middle name as my first name. But
Well, you are that guy.
Yeah, but they have everything else. So it's like, okay, whatever. So it does show now. It's, of course, it's somewhat blotted out, but it shows me like the last two of my social, the last two of my date of birth or something like that. But it's enough for me to look at it and go, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
me too.
Yep. You're in there too? You're a victim too?
I'm a victim. We're all a victim. You get to be a victim. You get to be a victim.
I know.
They even have like my address at my, like when I was a kid.
Oh, wow.
Address is in there with the phone number. I don't remember what. It's a weird phone number, so it wasn't the real phone number.
Yeah.
So
they have my business line from previous years past before I changed it to something else. So some of these records can go back a good long ways, but they're not going to get too much out of the old information, but they have plenty, put it that way. They have plenty.
Well, but there's some of these security questions, like what city have you lived in? What address? So they can't ask that anymore.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about those security questions before. They really need to get rid of those things. They're not very good. Now, for me, I don't know about you, I always answer those things incorrectly anyway. So I have to put that information into my password manager because it's not going to be accurate. If you ask me like, what's your mom's maiden name? It won't be her maiden name. It's going to be something crazy.
No, I'm talking about the ones where it's like the financial stuff where you go in and they have information and send it to you and go, which one of these addresses did you live at? And you're like, I don't know about you, but I'm like, oh, well, you probably didn't. But there's some, and I'm like, is that address of that place? And then I have before seen one and went, oh, yeah, I forgot about that one.
Yeah. So I've got one that always gets me. I used to live on a street that the street sign was actually different than the road name that the county had on its map, which was not good if you had to call 911. So we would always get every bit of information. I don't know how they did it, but every bit of information that came to us would come to Manteo Way was the name of it. But the street sign was Manted Way. It didn't have an O, it had a D. Somebody didn't realize that it was an O, or somebody didn't realize it was a D. I don't know. Somebody somewhere didn't do it right. So it was never accurate. So when I go to
that's why they make those cans of spray paint, David.
I know, but see, when I go to those sites like you're talking about, it'll say, did you live at Manteo Way? And I'm like, no, I've never lived on a Manteo Way. But that's the information that's actually accurate, even though that was not the address I lived at. So I don't know. Crazy life I live. So one of the things that comes up after that is, okay, are there any things that I can do? What can I protect myself in any way? Are there any steps I should take because I am now a victim of this big, massive data breach? And the answer is yes, and somewhat, and no. So,
as always, it depends.
It very much depends. But the action step that I think most people should take is to look at either freezing or locking your credit. Now, I say freeze or lock because I say freeze or lock because depending on what site you go to, it's going to call it one or the other, but they mean the same thing. So some people say freeze your credit, some people say lock your credit. I know this because I went to freeze mine and there was no freeze. It said, do you want to lock it? So, but that's the best thing to do because if you do that, then they say that's the kind of the strongest protection you can have from criminals accessing your credit without your permission. And the unfortunate part is there's not one place to go to say, freeze my credit. You have to go to all three credit reporting agencies. And you have to go to Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion to do that. And we have links to those in the show notes. Now,
Yes.
do you know of any way you can freeze them all three at once? Is there like there's probably a service somewhere.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, I haven't looked at our service because I've been a little disconnected.
I
Which
figured
was
there was
really
like
cool,
a service to rule
but
them
not
all.
now.
Yeah.
I believe there are some of the services will actually put a freeze on everything automatically for you, but
So like if you have a credit monitoring service, they might do it.
yeah,
Okay.
some of them might. I believe I have seen that as an option.
Okay.
However, I literally am less than 24 hours of being home, so don't trust me right now.
So the other thing we'll include too is there's a website. It's usa.gov/credit freeze, and there's a lot of information there. We'll link to it. Talks about how to do it. It's a very, very, very short page, but it talks a little bit about how to do it, and you can go get some information there. I will say that when I was trying to do this, I haven't done all three yet because it took me so long to find a stupid button in the first one. And I kind of knew this going in because I heard a guy on the radio talking about how it was not easy to find the place to do it. It's not like there's this big red button that says freeze your credit. But as I'm going through this, like every time I'm clicking on something that I think is it, I get presented with a subscription for $5.95 a month. We'll monitor your credit, or something. They're just trying to sell me something through the whole process, which I get it. Not that it's not bad to have that type of service, but I didn't want it. I just want to freeze.
I
the
need
credit.
this right now. I need to streamline this particular issue.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
And you don't have to pay anything to freeze your credit, which it almost makes you feel, if you don't know that, you feel like you do have to pay because of how it's set up. I'm talking about based on my experience going into that one. I can see my parents paying the money because as soon as you click on freeze your credit, you get presented with a credit card processing page. And then in routine letters, it says, no thanks.
Of course
So,
it does.
yeah,
so
I
be
was
careful while,
Yeah. I didn't like that too much. I think that's a little
I don't
shady.
really. Yeah.
But anyway, so you can do that. You can also go to annualcreditreport.com to get your free credit report. I think you can even do like a weekly check nowadays. Used to, you could only do it annually. So, but that's where you can get your free credit report. I usually pull one down annually and look at it and then report anything that, I want to dispute. And quite frankly, I find stuff all the time. There's always something on there. Sometimes it's minor. Sometimes I've had people, I have no idea who they are. They're on my credit report. I've had hospital bills on my credit report from places I've never visited. So,
Wow.
there's always been something on there. So if you don't look at that, there's no telling how bad your credit might be messed up. So take a look at that stuff. It is worth bringing up, though, that even though having these credit monitoring services are good, there are some things that they can't do. So let's set some proper expectations here. So here's some few things they cannot do for you is they cannot prevent identity theft or credit card fraud. So just signing up for them doesn't mean they're going to prevent anything. It's a monitoring service, right? Think of it like your home alarm system is being monitored. They're not preventing somebody from kicking your door in.
Yeah.
They're just telling you that it happened. Same thing with this. They're not preventing it. They're just telling you. All right. They can't keep you from receiving phishing emails. And oh, by the way, they also can't keep you from opening them or clicking on them.
Yeah, that's on you too.
Yeah. And I would say that the likelihood, based on this massive data breach, the likelihood that you're going to get phishing emails, phishing text messages, smishing, voice call, all of it. You're going to get all of it. You might as well be prepared. And as always, I am so worried about the people that are not techie or they're older individuals like my parents. I'm always so afraid that they're going to get taken advantage of. And it is going to happen. Hopefully not
Yeah.
to my parents, but it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So reach out to those folks in your life and try to bring them up to date on what this is and how they can protect themselves from it. Be aware of everything. The other thing they can't do is they can't keep someone from applying for credit in your name. So they can apply for it. Hopefully it'll turn them down because your credit's frozen, but it's not going to, if you're just doing the credit monitoring, it doesn't block them from doing it. That's why you should freeze your credit. They won't correct errors on your credit report. So that's, again, they're just monitoring. And then lastly, it does not stop taxpayer identity theft, which been through that game too. No fun. I went one year to file my taxes and my kids were my dependents, and the accountant came back the next day and said, did your ex-wife claim one of your kids? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure she hasn't even filed yet. And they're like, well, somebody claimed one of your kids.
Wow.
I was like, oh, then they need to send me some money for having to put up with him for all year. So we had to go through that, and it took it took nearly the next tax cycle before we got that squared away. So it took a while, but anyway, there you go.
Well, and here's the thing for all the people who are like, well, I don't have to treat it that seriously. Cybersecurity stuff, and I can keep things in. Krebs on Securities, one of the blogs we follow, post from today at 12:30 points out that the problem, so this stuff was hacked in April. The cyber criminals started selling the data, and in July somebody leaked what had been taken, and they acknowledged it then on August the 12th. So we're saying this thing says it dates back to a security incident in December 2023.
That's been a while.
Yeah. And then they interviewed the cyber criminal, because they can get out there on the dark web and interview them. And interestingly enough, it's called US DOD. They blamed the July data leak on another malicious hacker who had access to the company's database, which they claimed has been floating around the underground since December.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then Krebs on Security gets a tip that there is a sister property that's National Public Data, also runs recordchecks.net.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hosting an archive that included the user's name and password for the site's administrator.
Wow.
And they went and looked. It was available, and they until this morning, so made sure it was gone before he published it. It includes source code, plain text usernames and passwords for different components of recordscheck.net. And it is very similar because it's the same people. They even have identical login pages with nationalpublicdata.com. So my guess is they found one and got into the other, and this is probably how, but it was a archive called members.zip. Now, how many times? Well, I zipped it up. It's secured. No. And it says, apparently, all of the users, when they created them, were given the exact same 6-character password and instructed to change it, but many did not.
Well, yeah, because who's going to follow directions?
Right. And it's saying that these passwords in that source code archive, because see, what people don't understand is they code database username and passwords inside the program itself. So if you get a hold of the program, you can sometimes get the database login. And apparently the database login that was in that source code are identical to the credentials exposed in previous data breaches involving email accounts belonging to the founder of National Public Data. So all they said was, and they contacted the founder, who is an actor and a retired sheriff's deputy from Florida, Salvatore Verini, or Sal, as his friends call him. And they reached out to him on Krebs, those folks did, and reached via email. Mr. Verini said the exposed archives containing recordscheck.net credentials has been removed from the company's website, and that the site is slated to cease operations in the next week or so. You think?
That's nice. That's nice.
You think? So the leaked source code says the website was created by, now here's the kicker, which I always worry about. Oh, we had so-and-so build our website. So the leaked recordscheck.net source code indicates the website was created by a web development firm in Pakistan called creationnext.com, who did not comment. But it does feature, their website features a positive testimonial from our friend Sal. So there's a couple of different, there's the one that we have out there, npd.pentester.com. There's also npdbreach.com. And people are like, but what if I enter my stuff? Look, it's already out there. Just enter your name, your state, and your date of birth, and boom, you're going to know. You're going to see the sad news. But yeah, I have never worried about freezing my credit until now, and I will be doing it because of this. So that tells you how bad this one is. I would hope it would explain to the people who listen to us that it is so.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm the same way. Like I've never really considered it, but I am now doing it.
Yeah.
Before this podcast recording today, I got through one of them. I got to do the other two, and it took me about maybe 10 minutes. If it would have been at 1 minute if I'd have known where to go to find the button.
And now you know.
It took me 9 minutes to find the button, and then 1 minute to get it activated.
And for everybody that worries about it, they're supposed to, when you make the request within 1 business day, put the freeze in place. So you do have a delay there. But to unfreeze it, they are required to unfreeze within an hour. So if you need it, I worried, for a long time of, well, what if I could just decide, you know what, I'm going to buy this on this interest-free option. Here, I want to create this account. Well, now I got to go unfreeze it.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, off you go.
Yeah, well, keep you from spending money. So that's probably not a bad thing.
But it is a massive breach, and everybody's talking about it. And it's the quote, the third party bad actor. Ooh, scary.
It's the mother of all
this one's
breaches.
scary. So get her done.
Yeah. The bad thing is we keep saying things like mother of all breaches, and I swear every time we do that, a bigger one comes up.
I know. I'm not saying the biggest ever. I'm just saying this is the biggest right now.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
But between this one and Change Healthcare, which no one realizes how big it is because they haven't really done anything with it yet.
Yep.
It's massive.
There is more likely a chance that you are caught up in either one of these than you're not.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Now, the worst part is this one has your social security number.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, they can take this information and go start grabbing credit cards and loans and all kind of stuff. And, by the time you figure all of it out, even if you can fix it all, just think of the absolute pain in the tail this is going to cause. Yeah.
It's a nightmare for everybody.
Mm-hmm. All right. So you got an update on CrowdStrike. So what's going on with them? Because, I don't know if you know this, but I freaking switched to CrowdStrike like right before this happened.
Yeah, I know.
I was like, darn, that sucks. Which, I mean, it's still, I think, my opinion, which doesn't matter to anybody but me, but I still think it's a good product. It's not like it's some kind of security issue or whatever. I mean, it was somebody did something they shouldn't have done or didn't do something they should have done kind of thing as far as breaking Windows on the update, but it could have been a lot worse. I mean, anyway, go ahead. It just sucks for me because I'm like, doggone it. You know how much trouble I went through just to roll CrowdStrike out, and then this happened.
just ride it out. I mean, they're, it's good stuff, and they're being as transparent as possible. So they actually published a root cause report, or made the press release of here's what happened, and here's what we're going to do. But basically, when they're explaining it, there was a program that said, hey, give me the 21st value in this list, but the list only had 20 values, which Windows goes, boom, I'm freaking out. You're asking for 21. I only have 20. So I am just gonna shut down because I can't even think because you asked for 21. That's it. That's what Windows did. They asked for 21 and Windows just nutted up over the fact that the list only had 20 and you asked me for 21.
Yeah. Oh, you must be wanting my blue screen. I will give it to you.
My blue screen means I don't know what to do. So anyway, supposedly they're having, in order for their product to be as good as it is, they had to work with Microsoft to let them launch their code that early in the process to block malware that Windows would not block. So, I mean, let's be clear here. Mm-hmm. They had to do it because the Microsoft product can't secure itself. And it was caused because the Microsoft product freaked out when a program asked for something in a list that was one more than what the list allowed. It couldn't handle it. So we're not talking just CrowdStrike's fault here. I mean, come on. Mm-hmm. Why could that program not say, I mean, it's just like, okay, that's out of bounds.
Yeah.
Why can't it handle that? Anyway, that to me, having that developer's background, I'm like, something that deep in the code can't say back to my program, sorry, my list only has 20.
Yeah. Syntax error.
Yeah. Something. So, anyway, and supposedly Microsoft's working on some new options where they call it like the user space. So they don't have to do things that deep in the operating system. They can do it in this other space.
Now,
anyway.
Isn't this part of the issue with what happened, 20 years ago or so, where Microsoft had to allow software vendors deep into the code?
Yeah, because it's not secure. And a lot of this code, I don't care what you say. I mean, you think about the Windows 11, since you remember, for those of us who are old, you remember Windows 95 is when we really saw the change in the way Windows worked. Mm-hmm. And this was the complete rewrite, And then it was another complete rewrite. And, Windows 7 and then Windows, so 10, and now here we are, Windows 11, but all of the versions had this problem. As far as I know, they didn't say it only happens on this version, right? Okay. It didn't say just this.
Right.
So that means they all have the same problem. They all have the same code. So yes, It's in the bigger picture of security within Windows itself. Can't manage itself. So they have the vendors that they work with to manage the security, and had to let them in that far because, and that's what we got to, because the vendors couldn't do what they needed to do, because by the time their code was being launched, the bad guys were getting deeper down in there. Mm-hmm. And the good guys couldn't go as deep as the bad guys were going, finding the bugs. So anyway, they say, they're changing the way they're doing some things to take advantage of some new things that Microsoft's doing, but what does that mean? We've got brand new features. Brand new features have bugs. Yep. So that's all I thought is, just a new list of bugs. But anyway, they're working with Microsoft on an ongoing basis now to add more support for security products in that safer part of the Windows called the user space thing. So great. They're gonna, Microsoft's trying to make it safer, but then I still got questions. But the bottom line is, they know what happened, they know why, and they're like, wow, here's a test we should run.
You gave us something we've never tried before.
Yeah, so now there's a test that they're going to add, but they've hired 2 separate third-party security vendors, software security vendors, to do independent reviews of specifically focusing on this scenario from the moment of development all the way through deployment to find any possible problems.
Wow.
In the process itself. So, I mean, they are doing, this is like, we will do everything to prevent this from ever happening again. Now, can they do that? I don't know. I was surprised it happened in the first place.
Yeah. It's we're not going to say it will never happen again. We're just saying there's a low likelihood.
And that's the difference.
Yeah.
Which so come up again we're going to get to that in just a minute, aren't we?
Yeah.
But it did mention they're still fighting with Delta over the blame for the Delta mess. And Delta's like, we're going to see $500 million in lost revenue and costs for Delta on this thing.
Everybody else is up and running within 3 days at the most. Delta's down for 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, so either there's more to that story, right? Yeah. Or they had some special something for them that blew up pieces. I don't know. Maybe we'll hear about it. Be great if we did. Because then,
I think one article I saw was CrowdStrike, might have been the CEO, saying that the reason why Delta's having so many problems is because they run horribly outdated hardware.
Anybody surprised?
And so, I don't know, but if everybody else can get through this in a tenth of the time, you've got to look at that organization and say something else is going on. You've got to, you're carrying some responsibility for this. If everybody else in the world can get through this fairly quickly.
Well, it wasn't that long ago, a couple of years ago, that Delta had just themselves an IT outage that wreaked havoc on the system. So that did happen too. And, being here in Atlanta, Delta is kind of like key to all kinds of things. You can literally go anywhere in the world from Atlanta. And most people, the road, all roads lead to Rome. Pretty much, if you're on Delta, they all lead to Atlanta at some point.
Yeah. See, we were flying Delta the weekend of this incident.
Yeah.
So fortunately, we didn't get stuck. We were in Boston, but I was somewhat fearful that we would get stuck until I saw people in the flight before us be offered $4,000 a seat.
Whoa.
To not fly that flight. And I was already looking at my wife and I'm like, we about to hit jackpot, baby. Because as soon as they say who's willing to take a different flight, I was like, I'm already ready.
Yeah.
I'm like, heck yeah, I'll do it. $4,000 a seat.
And
No, our flight went off without a hitch. I was a bit disappointed because I was like, I am so ready to be stranded in this airport with $4,000 in my pocket.
it is nice to have the flexibility. And when you live in Atlanta, you got a lot more flexibility. So there are times where I'm in another city and get offered, the bump, and you wait a minute, is it worth, how much is it worth my time to hang out in the Sky Club for a little bit,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So, but anyway, that remains to be seen. We'll see. But wait, David, there's more terrifying things that you were sharing with me, and I'm so glad that the cruise ship doesn't have very good internet unless you upgrade, and I chose not to. I was hanging with my fam.
Yeah, I really tried to not send you things while you were gone, but I just some of it I couldn't help.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, there was one that happened right before I left, and I saved it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something, so we just talked about the CrowdStrike, the security thing, and we've talked about MDM software many times, mobile device management. You want to explain kind of real quick what that is so it catches up?
Yeah, so for the most part, you think of it like your phones and stuff like that. You want to be able to manage those in a central hub, or for one pane of glass, as we say sometimes. So you log into this website, you can see all your devices, you can control policies on them. Make sure they're all encrypted, make sure they're all up to date, only run these particular apps. You can get as kind of broad or as not narrow as you want to go with it, but that's basically what it is. You're managing mobile devices within one location.
Yeah. So it's great to have.
Sometimes.
Until this happens. And so this is a UK based vendor, Mobile Guardian, and they admitted on August 4th they suffered a security incident. It was an incident that involved unauthorized access to iOS and Chrome OS devices managed by its tools. And they were able to remotely wipe 13,000
ouch
devices. Yes. 13,000. That was in Singapore. Just in Singapore, where the education ministry was using it to manage all of their, the kids' Chromebooks, because they use that a lot. Apparently, it resulted in a small percentage of devices to be unenrolled from Mobile Guardian, which somehow led to remote wiping.
Mm-hmm.
So, 13,000 wiped all at the same time. Boom. That's so, but it's because they got into the tools, and this gets back to, again, supply chain.
Yep. Every single tool that either you or your MSP or whatever, every single piece of software that you bring into the environment adds risk.
Mm-hmm.
I had somebody the other day said, and this was a medical office, we're using BYOD, and I was like, oh, such a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, why? I'm like, yeah, it was good, a few years ago. Mm-hmm. Not good anymore, because now the same people that are working on your stuff that for your business and your practice, they're also playing games. Their kids are playing on stuff. They got schoolwork they're doing. They're looking at their own individual social media accounts and their free Gmail accounts. And you got all this risk to your data because you're letting them do that.
It's just awful.
Like, oh.
Yeah. It's like an unnamed friend who, I hate change people. One of those. Who has a very old Pixel phone.
Ooh.
To the point that when they go to open an app, web pages start popping up. An independent app. And I'm like, that thing's eating up. And they're like, yeah, I know, I need a new phone.
So mark your calendar. I'm going to coin a new phrase right now. BYOB is now considered bring your own breach.
Oh, boom, boom. All right, so the other two, well, we'll end on the other because it's, why not close with Microsoft? But your note on this next one that you sent me, just the note when I read it, and then I read your note, and then I read the headline, and I was about to get on a plane. So,
which is why I sent it to
you. You share this one because you share this one.
So there was an article in Forbes magazine talking about, I've never heard of this before, but there's a new warning out about GPS attacks on airlines. And so I'm like, what in the world is this? So you have to go read the article, but basically there are people that can attack the GPS systems in airplanes, and apparently it already is happening, but it's happening now at a more alarming rate.
A spike, they called it.
Yeah. And so what does this mean for airlines? Well, maybe you'll land where you're supposed to. Maybe you won't. I don't know. It just becomes one of those things where I don't know what the implications are, but obviously, they could be bad, especially if you're flying, international and you're going the wrong way and you don't have enough fuel and you're way out over the ocean somewhere when you thought you should be over land.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, man. It has the capability to turn out pretty badly. So, so I sent that, but part of the article that caught my attention was, and it reads, industry leaders thought that this type of hacking was not possible. And I just shook my head. I was like, I've got to send this to Donna, because I can just imagine that there are these tech folks in whatever company this is, and they're probably saying, we're not saying it's not possible. We're just saying it's a low likelihood. Mm-hmm. Because what idiot would say it's not possible?
Nah.
Anybody in technology will never, ever tell you
that's impossible.
It's not possible. Yeah,
if they
nobody's going to say.
They're way overconfident.
I mean, oh man, that's like my leading discussion. If I'm having a discussion with a new client or something, like, I am not telling you that we can 100% protect you. Okay. Mm-hmm. That is not possible. And anybody who tells you that, you better run. Yeah. But, yeah, so that's scary, but you made it home. So I guess you didn't get GPS hacked. Now, I think also my understanding was it's happening more if you're going over some of these areas in the world that, they have things set up to where they're trying to block missiles from falling in using GPS technology and stuff like that.
Well, apparently this was a presentation at DEF CON, which is the hacker conference. And it said, we're starting to see reports of the clocks on board airplanes during spoofing events start to do weird things. Really? An aircraft operated by a major Western airline. That's all it says.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like west of what? The Mississippi?
Yeah.
Or the United States. But had its onboard clock suddenly sent forward by years, causing the plane to lose access to its digitally encrypted communication system.
Mm.
Yeah. So I had the little flight tracker up on the back of the seat. What time does that say? Yeah, that's the right time.
I had you freaking out the whole time.
It was just, periodically I'd check, see what time does it say it is.
I could only imagine you sitting there going, I would kill him if I could get my hands around his neck right now.
I only thought about it like twice, and it was a very long flight from Seattle. So, but Here's the thing about the spike. Where was it here? Oh, the number of flights affected from an average of 200 daily. So this is 200 daily.
Oh, that's nothing.
Between January and March to around 900 daily for the second quarter of 2024. So on some days, as many as 1,350 flights. And flight crews also report the intensity is increasing. Like, so a 400%. No. So, yeah.
So basically, we're starting to understand what the Bermuda Triangle is actually doing. Because we can now demonstrate it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, again, did the risk assessment, found it very low likelihood, but it's still running around in my head when I'm on the plane. So, because, you're sitting there for a very long flight. And no, I did not share it with any of my family.
Well, I got to fly out to Denver in a few weeks. So, yeah, I'm like,
tick-tock, buddy, tick-tock.
I'm one of the 1,300 planes. I'm going to do like you. Can you verify the time before we take off, and maybe a couple times while we're in the air?
Yeah, could you just, when you do your little check-in, tell us what time it is?
Yeah. Oh, we would love to tell you, but our communications are down. Oh, man.
All right, and then our last little thing is, because we keep bringing this up, because we both find this, while, let me tell you something, people that are using this love it when they're using it with Office. It does amazing things.
Yeah.
Microsoft Copilot. However, it's making me a nervous wreck. I just won't even try it. I don't want any part of it. But at a Black Hat conference, what was the date on this one? So this one's August 8th. David, just the thought of, so it used Copilot and said that the attacker could manipulate Copilot somehow. I didn't go through, but use it as like what they call it, an automated phishing machine. Because it would use the AI to read the emails, which they already do, and use that to target people. And it could like get into your email box, let AI read it, and start churning out emails from you.
Well, when you think about how AI saves you so much time writing letters and creating reports and all this, well, guess what? It's going to save criminals a whole lot of time doing what they do. And we're just talking about the beginning of this stuff. We're in the infancy stages.
Yeah.
Just think when it gets to where it's doing more and more automation, it's going to be interesting. I'll just say that. Of course, now they're talking about how they're very, very worried that humans are going to take a liking to the to AI to the point where they're going to have relationships with it, or feel like it's the girlfriend they never had or whatever,
like the movie.
Yeah, exactly. I heard somebody say something about OpenAI is kind of pulled back on rolling this thing out because they have the concern that people may develop relationships or emotions with AI. And I'm like, dude, that's been in the movies for years. Don't tell me you just thought of this. Oh, man. But interesting times for sure.
Yes.
They're also baking in Gemini. Google is baking it in all their phones. So they're doubling down on that. It's going to be interesting. Ever since all this is, started with OpenAI really pushing the envelope, which caused everybody else to come out of the closet with theirs.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next couple of years, we said this when it came out, the first couple of years or so is going to be crazy. And it has proven to be true. already.
And it's going to get even more wild. You know?
And you can't, already on social media, you can't watch a video or look at a photo without somebody saying, oh, that's fake. Even the ones that aren't fake, people think that's fake.
Yeah. Yeah. So, one of the newsletters I get, it gives you a picture and they're like, is it fake or real? So, kind of helps you try to figure it out and see just how good they are. So every now and then I'm wrong. Every now and then I'm right. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. I love the ones it'll say something. It'll have a picture and then it'll say, back in 1492, such and such and such, and it has a picture of them. And people are commenting like, oh, wow, never saw it. And I'm like, dude, they did not have a camera back then. It's so funny.
Yeah. Sometimes people don't hear themselves. Well, a lot of times people don't hear themselves. So we'll leave it at that. I think that's a good spot to end on.
I think it is. Oh, my goodness. The good thing is maybe we can start automating people listening to the podcast. So we'll find out if we can do that. So you wake up to me and Donna in the morning.
It's like, hey.
It's Donna and David in the morning show. All right, folks, that's our show for today. Remember to follow us and share us out on your favorite social media websites, or you can share it out with AI. Maybe it'll like it too. But help us spread the word. We really appreciate it. If you haven't left a review or you haven't left something in a while and you wanted to go leave another one, then we appreciate that. And remember, for Donna and myself, HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
Help me with HIPAA. Let's get it right. Protect your patients day and night. Donna and David, the experts on your side. Help me with HIPAA. Let's get it right.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.